It's August 17th. It's 592 BC, just 5 years before the destruction of Jerusalem. In Babylon, God announces through Ezekiel that the day of judgment against Judah is dawning, and he describes the terrible consequences facing the people. 1/3 of the people left back in Judah will die from famine and disease. 1/3 will die from the sword, and 1/3 will be scattered throughout the nations of the region. It's a severe discipline, and so that no one misconstrues it as excessive or cruel, God transports Ezekiel in a vision some 500 miles back to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem to show him what's happening inside the temple complex. Judah's priests and leaders have thoroughly defied the temple, setting up idols inside the very courtyard where sacrifices are made. And in the inner chambers, behind closed doors and curtains, priests cry out in worship to foreign gods. Contrast this vision with what we read on February 18th, where Aaron's 2 sons died because in attempting to fulfill their priestly duties, they improvised and used their own methods of offering sacrifices to God. Their sins paled in comparison to what's happening here in Ezekiel and Jeremiah's day, where repeated generations of kings and priests set up idols and misled the people. God had been far more gracious and patient with this current generation, giving them centuries of repeated warnings and corrections. What we see in today's reading is that the current leaders of Judah were beyond saving. Nothing God had said would change their hearts. Perhaps their children's children would one day worship, enjoy, and experience God as He had designed, but not these priests and not these people. They had defiled the land itself and defiantly refused to admit their transgressions or change their ways. And so they would have to be replaced. And this was the reason for the terrible things that were coming. God certainly didn't have to explain Himself. He was justified in what He was doing. But this vision revealed to Ezekiel shows us how patient God is toward His people and the lengths He will go in order to restore His people to Himself. Here's today's application. Do you struggle with being patient? Hopefully, you can see from today's reading how marvelously patient God is with His people. Let today's reading remind you of God's great patience and the patience He wants you to have with those around you. Now here's today's prayer.